Hey, this is Dizzy Reed from Guns N' Roses, and you're watching GNR Central. Yeah!
Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome to GNR Central. And today I want to talk about an incident from 2005 and 2006 that you guys may remember. So Velvet Revolver was out on tour promoting their first record, Contraband. And this was around the time that this whole lawsuit between Slash, Axl, and Duff was going on over the old songs. And Axl releasing a statement talking about, basically going public about the lawsuit. So it really starts with Velvet Revolver after they got signed. And they were about to go on tour to support Contraband, and this basically led Slash to finding his own manager separate from the band. So he said in theory that sounded like a logical solution to me, but all that it did was really alienate myself from the other guys and cause a great degree of animosity amongst us and among the management teams whenever a business arrangement came up. The situation added an extra level of stress that 2 years on the road did nothing but escalate. The tension never affected our chemistry on stage or creatively, but on a day-to-day interpersonal level, things were touchy, and by the end of the tour, everyone was at one another's throats. I stand by my decision, but I understand now how it made me a pain in the ass of the band and the other guys' eyes. I get why I drove them nuts. He said it was around this time that Axl chose to send out a press release that did nothing but add fuel to the fire. It's been widely documented, so I won't just do it justice by going into it all, but in short, Axl released a statement claiming that I'd come to his house, extremely coherent, early one morning, to ask him to please settle the lawsuit between us that had been ongoing for many years at this point. It also claimed that he and I talked for a while and that I had nothing but disparaging the comments to make about Scott Weiland and everyone else in Velvet Revolver. The truth is I haven't spoken a single word to Axl personally since 1996. He said, it's sad but true. I did go by his house one night, but I was drunk. Perla wasn't and she was driving. I walked up to the door and delivered a note that read something like, let's work this out, call me Slash. But I didn't give it to Axl, I gave it to his assistant. In any case, Axl released a statement and it was a big deal in the press because it was the first time Axl had gone public with his opinion about me, the lawsuit, and anything like that. As I've said, this incident was widely reported in the press and internet, and anyone who is interested can go read all about it if they choose to. The fact of the matter is that this incident and the resulting negative effect it had on Velvet Revolver was very unsettling to me. I can barely even talk about it still, let alone recreate it in detail here. I thought I was going to see everything I just finally gotten together fall apart. First things first, the lawsuit was a nightmare that had gone on too long. For fear of further litigation, the easiest way to explain it is to say that since 2001, we were involved in a lawsuit over the rights and profits stemming from licensing and merchandise. It was a typical broken up bands litigation where one party complains of underpayment by another party. The road of rock and roll is littered with that kind of shit. But what hurt the most was that I had to defend myself to the band. I showed up and insisted that what was alleged wasn't true. But the way that Axl had written this thing made it sound so matter-of-fact that everyone seemed to think it was. The guys were very dubious about accepting my story, and at the same time I was very sincere about telling them the truth. At first I thought I should respond publicly and told my band that I would, but later decided it would only complicate the issue and prolong it. I wasn't sure what to do. I still wanted to proceed. My credibility was riding on it. We had a band meeting a few days later and Scott didn't show. It was obvious to me since I hadn't made a move, I'd let him down. Then Scott released his own rebuttal. He attacked Axl on every level and my instinctual reaction was, you're right. It wasn't you're right. It was you can't talk shit about Axl. I can talk shit about Axl. I can talk shit about Axl all day if I want to. That's because I've had to deal with him for years. But neither Scott nor anyone else has that right. Tensions in the band escalated as a result, and I got my gear out of Matt Sorum's home studio where we'd been writing and rehearsing. Word on the street was that I'd quit Velvet Revolver to rejoin Guns N' Roses. I don't know who started that rumor, but it had legs long enough that it caused an exhausting internal battle. The media took a particular liking to the story that Slash had ditched his former Guns bandmates to rejoin Axl and whatever his idea of Guns N' Roses was going to be. At that point, I think Chinese Democracy was still thought to be on the way any year now. It looked like what I was doing was a fact, but for the fact I wasn't doing it. If you picked up any music newspaper around that time and listened to the radio or checked the blogs on the internet, there was no avoiding it. It was etched in stone. I'd left Velvet Revolver, I was going back to Guns, and the reality was that neither happened. During those few months, I was just at home recording musical ideas on my digital 16-track. It was literally a waiting game. It took all of us a while to get past all the bullshit. And finally, when it all went away, we got back to work. I just went over to Matt's house one day like nothing ever happened. Listen, man, I said, all of that was ridiculous and all of this is ridiculous. Can I just tell you what really happened? Yeah, man, I said my piece relating the story once again as it had gone down. Clearly, time had proven that I had no reunion with Axl and that I wasn't rejoining Guns N' Roses because nothing happened. That fact seemed to convince the guys that my version of events was the truth. I never felt I needed to explain myself to those guys, but I had, which always pissed me off. But I got over it and so did they. After I had a one-on-one with Matt, I had one with Kushner and then Duff and then Scott. All in all, it was completely unnecessary drama. Whether it was unsaid or not, I just didn't have the time for it, but we got through it and we're all better for it today. Almost 5 months later, Axl Rose released his own statement about what happened that night, and this is when we first heard of the story. So Axl claimed that Slash made an unannounced visit to his home in October of 2005. So according to his attorney who put out the statement, Howard Weitzman, he said W. Axl Rose on Friday, March 3rd, 2006, responded to one of Saul/Hudson's baseless lawsuits by filing a counterclaim asking federal court to confirm his ownership of his own creative works. Slash and Michael Duff McKagan had previously filed cases in both federal court and in Los Angeles Superior Court, making numerous false allegations about Axl. Mr. Rose believes that the once apprised of the true facts of the judge or jury deciding these lawsuits will rule in Axl's favor on every issue before them. More surprising to Axl are recent media reports that Slash is claiming that he had always been supportive of Axl and the new Guns N' Roses. Slash's actions in recent years have in fact been anything but supportive. Besides the lawsuits filed against Axl Rose claiming, among other things, that Axl does not own the copyright in the songs that Axl helped co-author with his former Guns N' Roses bandmates. Later on in Axl's statement, it says, in October of 2005, Slash made an unannounced 5:30 a.m. visit to Axl Rose's house. Not appearing to be under the influence, Slash came to inform Axl that Duff was spineless, Scott Weiland was a fraud, and that he hates Matt Sorum, and that in this ongoing war, contest, or whatever anyone else wants to call it, that Slash has waged against Axl for the better part of 20 years, that Axl has proven himself the stronger. Based on his conduct in showing up at Rose's home, Axl was hopeful that Slash would live up to his pronouncements that he wanted to end the war and move on with his life. Unfortunately, that did not prove to be the case. So as I had alluded to before, Scott Weiland released his own statement in response to Axl's, which he said, get in the ring, go to the gym, mother effer, or if you prefer, get a new wig, mother effer. I think I'll resist the urge to stoop to your level. Oh shit, here it comes. You fat, Botox-faced, wig-wearing F. Okay, I feel better now. Don't think for a second we don't know where those words came from. Your unoriginal, uncreative little mind, the same mind that has to rely on bandmates to write melodies and lyrics. Who's the fraud now, bitch? Damn, I couldn't imagine people writing for me. How many albums have you put out, man? And how long has it taken the current configuration of the so-called band to make the album? How long? And without the only guys that validated the name. How dare you? Shame on you. How dare you call our bass player spineless? We toured an album for almost a year and a half. How many shows have you played over the last 10 years? Oh, that's right. You bailed out on your long-awaited comeback tour, leaving your remaining fans feeling, shall we say, a trifle miffed. I won't even list what I've accomplished because I don't need to. So Duff McKagan was even asked about the controversy, and he really didn't want to add fuel to the fire. So he basically said that he would not get involved in the situation. He said, I think, a lot of it's really unfortunate and very difficult, he said in an interview conducted back on March 10th, the same day that Scott Weiland put out the statement. He said, I've always just wanted to make great music, and that's what I plan on doing. As far as a rebuttal to what he said or what Slash has said, I don't want to get involved in a war of the words. People say all kinds of stuff, and I'm not going to be one of them. In the years that followed, Velvet Revolver would fall apart and Scott Weiland would be fired. And he was interviewed about his comments about Axl a number of years later, and he basically expressed remorse about it. He said, when you think about it, isn't it ironic that the band is regurgitating the same story that they did with Axl Rose in their last band, where the lead singer was being demonized? Originally, I thought, what a troll he must have been, referring to Axl. What an evil man, but you know what? I have to say that I have an entirely different opinion of him today. That's a turnaround. Last year, you verbally laid into him in a very public manner, to which Scott Weiland said, but you know what? That was a long time ago, and I'd heard a lot of different stories. But there's two sides to every story, and having been in this band, I actually feel for the guy and understand him a whole lot more. So that does it for today's video. Now, I remember that I think when Axl released a statement, Slash did an interview with a radio station, and he originally denied even going to Axl's house, or originally when the story came out, and then he finally admitted, okay, yeah, it happened. And I think he was probably in that bad spot with his Velvet Revolver bandmates and didn't really want to shed any more light on it. So that does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts, and do you remember this happening back in 2006? And if so, what were your thoughts when you read this? Did you actually believe that Slash was going to go back to Guns N' Roses and abandon his Velvet Revolver bandmates? Let me know in the comment section below. Be sure to hit the like button and be sure to subscribe if you love GNR as much as I do. And go check us out on GNRCentral.com for the latest and greatest Guns N' Roses news. Take care.
Yeah.